Jones, Ferguson and others charged for illegal protest. Linden mayor suspects embezzlement at toll booth. And U.S. State Department to help with electoral reform. I am Noriko Bullford, and welcome to this edition of Uncut News. Before we begin, do you have something important you want to leak without revealing your identity? Send us a tip on WhatsApp at telephone number 659-6151. This morning, opposition National Rum Shop members Christopher Jones and Annette Ferguson were among several coalition supporters who were charged over the illegal gathering outside of the High Court on April 26. This was when the Up New supporters had their little hissy fit on Regent Street after the High Court threw out the elections petition. Ferguson was also charged for allegedly obstructing a police officer, whatever that means. Jones and Ferguson pleaded not guilty and were released on bail. $20,000 bail for Jones and $30,000 for Ferguson. They are expected to return to court on May 14th. The U.S. State Department is preparing to support an 18-month project to strengthen GCOM and the Attorney General's chambers regarding electoral processes. The project also seeks to encourage civil society to advocate for electoral reform in accordance with regional and international standards. According to the U.S. Embassy, GCOM, the Attorney General's chambers, and civil society organizations will collaborate to improve local electoral and constitutional law knowledge, establish an internal timeline to address electoral reform, improve collaboration for joint advocacy actions, and prioritize electoral and constitutional law issues while promoting reform through citizen engagement. The project will be implemented by the International Republican Institute. No, don't worry, it has nothing to do with Trump. Linden Mayor Wanika Arundel suspects that someone is stealing money from the Karakara toll booth, as financial records show that there has been a significant decrease in recent years in revenue. In fact, the concern was brought to the council since 2017, yet no aggressive measures are being implemented to unearth why funds continue to decrease. The head of the administration of the council is Town Clerk Orlina Obermuller. The financial records show that at October 2018, $60 million was collected, $52 million in 2019, and $39 million in 2020. Bethune, however, stated in a recent interview that the financial records for 2017 showed that the toll booth raked in $92 million. Then, as if by magic, between September to October 2020, there was a rapid increase in revenues, even though the country was under lockdown. The deputy mayor of Linden reasoned that this was the case after the councillors began to make noise about the discrepancies. In fact, in 2017, 2 staff were fired for stealing funds from the booth. This prompted the council to install CCTV cameras, but apparently the cameras have done nothing to stop the theft. The nation's Sea Defense Board has summoned the owners of TriStar Incorporated for exceeding the legally allowed limit for clearing mangroves. TriStar Incorporated is just another one of those random fly-by-night companies that have popped up since the oil industry started that have gotten clearance to operate a shore base to support the oil industry. This one is in Versailles, on the West Bank. According to the Sea Defense Board, the developer has cleared far too many mangroves and has so far failed to make provisions to rebuild a river defense. The Sea Defense Board has demanded that the developer rectify the situation immediately, as the lack of sea defense has now put hundreds of residents on the West Bank at risk for serious flooding. What are you getting your mom for Mother's Day? Here's an idea. Get her a smartphone from Cellular Plus. Get a whopping 50% off the DL3 Pro for $9,750 or Pro Plus for just $13,750. These come with a free 30-day digital bundle plan. Get this deal in the City Mall, Starbrook Square, Massey Providence, and Massey Turkine. Don't miss out. This morning, Rupert Brown had his death sentence reduced to 25 years by the Court of Appeal. In 2014, Brown was sentenced to death by hanging for the murder of his reputed wife, Seema Singh. His lawyer had argued that the sentencing was excessive and unconstitutional. State prosecutor Lake, in her submission to the court, had conceded that instead of the death sentence, the trial judge should have imposed a term of years or a life sentence onto Brown. According to reports, Brown, who suffered from serious mental illness, murdered Singh on May 29, 2011 at Helena No. 1 Village. Remand prisoner Alan Basdio was last night chopped in his head by two fellow inmates. Bosdio was sleeping in holding bay 2 when around 11 p.m. two masked men woke up and chopped him twice in the head. He is currently at the Georgetown Public Hospital in a stable but serious condition. 34-year-old farmer Shell Roy Clark and 39-year-old housewife Patricia Grant were charged today for being in possession of marijuana for the purpose of trafficking. The two were allegedly held with just over 1 pound of compressed marijuana. They both pleaded not guilty and were granted bail in the sum of $350,000 each. They will make their next court appearance on the 3rd of June. Now it's time to tell you about Best Buy's car of the day. Currently on sale is this 2009 Toyota Allion. It comes with push-button start, fog lamps, mag rims, new tires, CD, stereo, reverse camera, and much more. Buy cash for $2.75 million, or pay down as low as $550,000 with around $60,000 monthly for 4 years, and it is yours. Call or WhatsApp 662-0844 for more info, or visit their showrooms at Lot 171 Peter Rowe Street, Queenstown, or Lot 2 Lamar Street, and tell them Rico sent you for this sweet deal. It's now time for today's Rona Report. Today, the nation recorded 116 new cases. There are now 314 persons dead, which means that death count is steadily rising. There are 14 persons in the ICU, 1,716 persons in home isolation, and the total number of known cases in the nation now stands at 14,073. So, please, people, wash your hands frequently, avoid touching your nose and mouth, and mask up before you leave the house. When you do leave home, try to avoid enclosed spaces and large crowds, and remember to give 6 feet of space between you and others. Yesterday, 30-year-old laborer Tamish Wadiochan was charged with 2 counts of armed robbery. Police said the robbery was reportedly committed on Samantha Singh and Aramnath Ragnaroth at their number 69 village quarantine home. He was not required to enter a plea. Diochan was released on $500,000 bail and will be back in court May 19th. Moments after 3 men dressed in black robbed the Lee supermarket in Monrepo, one of the suspects was found unconscious in the street. A witness reportedly saw the trio ride off on 3 bicycles after robbing the joint. Then, a short distance later, the cops found a man dressed in all black, knocked out cold in the middle of the street. He was lying next to a damaged black bicycle. The man was identified as one of the robbers, and $21,500 were found in his possession. He was taken to the hospital for treatment under police guard. Are you a truck owner that is losing money due to downtime while you wait for your parts to be imported? Now that's just stupid. Truck parts are already in Guyana at Powered Automotive Truck Spares and Engine Parts. They stock spares for DAF, Bedford TM, International Freightliners, and Cummins engines. Check them out at 1161 EE Eccles or WhatsApp them at 697-0171. Tell them the Rico sent you and get a discount. And now for our stupid news of the day. The recently concluded audit of each region has uncovered over $1.1 billion worth of expired medications across health centers in all 10 of the regions. This is after the health ministry dumped over $10 billion worth from its main storage bond. So, during a pandemic, they were forced to dump over $11.1 billion worth of medication, despite the fact that the nation has seemingly been in a medication shortage since Jadia was in diapers. Now, it's easy to blame the politicians, but they might actually not be at fault here. I know, like for the first time ever, right? Anyway, the problem is actually the system itself, if you ask me. It would seem that the regions are actually the ones who are in charge of buying medications. On the surface, this actually makes sense. However, for some stupid reason, the individuals who are often tasked with doing the purchasing many times are brand new medical professionals with little administrative experience. As such, they really wouldn't know the appropriate number of each drug to buy. I mean, why would they? They really don't teach you that type of stuff in med school. Unfortunately, it gets even dumber, because these newbies often end up buying too much of the wrong thing, too little of the right thing, and end up returning the leftover money to the state. Then the state pats itself on the back for a job well done, thinking it saved a bunch of money. But they are then left dumbfounded when your auntie and Mardia died from a lack of insulin. So despite this cycle continuing year after year, the Ministry of Health has decided to solve the problem. No, not by changing the system, but rather by giving them more money to waste on medications which will eventually expire. Well, If that isn't stupid, then I don't know what is. Do you own a business that is struggling to get exposure? Your ad could be right here. Email guyamazo@gmail.com to find out how. Moving on to our Uncut News Viewers Poll question of the day. Every day we pose a question about current events in the nation, the region, the diaspora, and how you feel it relates to us. So, you give your responses in the comments, and we'll read the best ones in the following episode. Yesterday's question was, how do you feel about Granger's $2 billion lawsuit? Is he wrong? Is he right? Or is he just demanding a little bit too much? Ganesh Sukram said, if Granger wants to cash in on those billions, he better not hire Basil Williams. The banner can't win a blade of grass to save your ass. Granger bye, you better get Nandlal on your side. Right? I wouldn't trust Basil to get me out of a parking ticket. I'd go in for the ticket and somehow get sentenced for murder. Karen Thomas said, good for you, Granger. Owenna Bruce said, Granger bye, take several seats and go mind grandchildren. What's really wrong with the politicians these past few weeks? They catch on a lot of feelings. I thought when you entered politics, you're supposed to have a thick skin. Right, I thought so too, Owenna. I mean, didn't Gonzalez just the other day say take your licks like a man? It sounds like none of these politicians want to take their licks. And finally, Aminotep Amun said, what Mr. Granger is doing is absolutely right. If he wins or not, it will force the journalistic community to do their due diligence before publishing statements in the media. He does have a point there. Anyway, so for tonight's question. Well, I just outlined the main reason why we keep having drug shortages while also having to dump millions in expired drugs each year, or at least on a very basic level. So, what do you think the government can do to solve this problem? Think about that question and tell us in the comments below. If your response is good enough, we just might feature it in our next episode. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. Check us out Monday for another. Until then, I'm the Regal Bullford saying, have a great weekend. And as always, don't drink and drive, or you'll end up on Monday's episode the hard way. Ha-ha! Good night, folks. Hey, Uncut News viewers, thanks for watching. You can subscribe by clicking on this button over here, or click over there for more news. You can also drop a comment to let me know if you've made it to the end of the video. Goodbye for now.